They called him the billionaire with everything. But when Darius Cole returned home unannounced, he didn't find love. He found his wife, beating his disabled mother. From that moment, his world shattered. And what followed was a storm of betrayal, greed, and hidden secrets that could bury an empire. But this story isn't about money. It's about truth. It's about how far a man will go when love turns into poison. And how forgiveness can burn hotter than revenge. Stay till the end. Because what Darius chose to do next will leave your heart trembling. He had been gone for 3 years. 3 long years of meetings, investments, boardroom wars, and lonely hotel rooms in foreign lands. Darius Cole, the man newspapers called the silent billionaire of Lagos, finally decided to come home, not to make an announcement, not to show his power, but because his heart was tired. Success had brought him money, but it had taken away something else, peace. He missed the sound of his mother's laughter, the smell of the sea near their home, and the comfort that came from knowing he still had a place where love was not a transaction. It was late afternoon when his private jet landed quietly at Murtala Mohammed Airport. No cameras. No noise. Just a man returning home. His driver was shocked when Darius said, "No calls, no messages. I want to surprise them." The driver nodded, knowing this was not a man to question. The city passed by, the busy streets of Lagos, the shouting of bus conductors, the smell of roasted corn, and the thunder of distant traffic. But in Darius' mind, there was only one image, his mother's face. Her frail hands, her gentle eyes. She had always been his reason for everything. The mansion in Lekki stood tall and proud, just as he left it, white walls, tall palm trees swaying in the evening breeze, guards in black uniforms by the gate. It was home, yet something felt different. The house felt too quiet. Too empty. As the gate opened, the security men rushed to greet him, but he raised a finger to his lips. "No noise," he said softly. "Let me walk in by myself." He stepped through the long corridor, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Family portraits lined the walls, his wedding with Vanessa, smiling in her white gown, his mother sitting proudly beside him, his younger brother Daniel, his arm around him like family was forever. But as Darius walked deeper into the house, the silence grew heavier, like a warning from the air itself. Then, he heard it. A sound that froze him. A sharp cry. Then a thud. Then another cry, weak, broken, and familiar. He followed the sound slowly, like a man walking through a dream he didn't want to believe. The noise led to the inner living room. The door was slightly open. Through the gap, he saw something that shattered him completely. His wife, Vanessa, the woman he had trusted with everything, was standing over his mother, his old, disabled mother who sat helplessly in her wheelchair. Vanessa's face was twisted with anger, her hand raised. She slapped the old woman again. "You useless witch," she shouted. "I told you to stop calling my husband. He's busy. You're nothing but a curse in this house." Mama Cole's frail voice trembled. "Vanessa, please, don't do this. My son, he will not like this." Vanessa laughed coldly. "Your son? That man only calls because I remind him. You think he still cares about you? He's with people who matter. Not old women who drag his name into pity." Darius stood frozen. His heart screamed, but his body refused to move. Each word stabbed him deeper. Every insult to his mother was a blade to his soul. He felt his chest tighten, his breath shorten. The mighty billionaire, feared by businessmen across continents, could not move his feet. He wanted to rush in, to shout, to tear the house apart, but something in him whispered, "Wait." So he waited. He watched as his mother, tears running down her face, slowly wheeled herself away, whispering, "God is watching you, my daughter. He sees everything." Vanessa rolled her eyes, picked up her phone, and walked out of the room. When the door shut behind her, Darius finally stepped forward. He knelt beside his mother. Her face was bruised. Her lip trembled, but when she saw him, she gasped. "My son. Darius?" He took her hands gently. "Mama," he whispered, his voice breaking. What has she done to you? She shook her head, her eyes filled with love and shame. You were working, my child. I didn't want to disturb you. I prayed every night you would not see this. Darius felt his throat tighten. See what, Mama? That I failed to protect you? That I trusted the wrong person? His mother touched his cheek. Don't let anger destroy you, my son. The devil starts his work when the heart loses control. He held her hand tighter, tears burning his eyes. Mama, I swear by my father's grave, no one will ever hurt you again. As he helped her back to her room, his mind was spinning. Every kind smile Vanessa had ever given him now felt poisonous. He remembered how she always discouraged him from visiting home. How she'd say, "Your mother is old, let her rest." He had believed it. He had believed her. And now, seeing his mother's pain, guilt crushed him more than anger ever could. When Mama Cole finally slept, Darius went to his study. The house was silent again. He poured himself a glass of water, but his hand shook. He thought of the years he spent building his empire, of the sacrifices, of the loyalty he believed surrounded him. He thought of Daniel, his brother, who Vanessa said had been visiting often. But if Daniel knew this, why didn't he tell him? His mind began connecting invisible threads, threads that led to something darker. He opened his safe, pulled out his mother's medical file, and saw strange expenses, withdrawals, hospital payments that never reached the clinic. Someone had been taking money in his mother's name. Someone close. Someone trusted. And in that moment, he understood. The battle ahead wasn't just for revenge. It was for truth. Because sometimes, the people you love most are the ones who quietly sell your peace piece by piece. He looked at his wedding portrait again, the one that once made him proud. He picked it up, stared into Vanessa's smiling face, and whispered, "You forgot who I am. You thought my silence was weakness." Then he placed the frame face down on the table. Outside, the rain began to fall. The first drops tapped against the window, like whispers from the sky. Mama Cole's words echoed in his mind, "The devil starts his work when the heart loses control." Darius closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He knew he had to stay calm. This was not a storm to meet with rage. It was one to outthink. That night, he didn't sleep. He stood by the window, watching lightning stretch across the sky over Lagos. The sea roared in the distance, as if nature itself was restless. Somewhere in another room, Vanessa slept peacefully, unaware that the man she had betrayed was awake not with anger, but with purpose. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides storms. By morning, the sun returned, painting gold over the city. Darius stood tall again, his mind steady. He kissed his mother's forehead gently and said, "Rest, Mama. I will handle everything." Then he walked toward the door with calm steps. The guards greeted him as he entered his car. He didn't look back. Because sometimes, the war for truth begins in silence. And Darius Cole was ready to fight his quietly, wisely, and without mercy. For in the end, he had learned one painful truth. The greatest betrayal is not when an enemy attacks you. It's when love turns its hand against your own mother. The morning after Darius returned felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, but behind that calm was quiet fire. He had not told anyone he was home except his driver. To everyone else, the billionaire was still abroad on business. That secrecy became his greatest weapon. Because before a man confronts evil, he must first understand the shape it takes. He drove to his company headquarters on Lagos Island without his usual escort. The building was a giant tower of glass and steel, shining like a monument to his success. As he walked through the lobby, the staff gasped in surprise. No one had expected him. Some smiled nervously, others whispered. But Darius only nodded politely and headed straight to his private office. The smell of polished wood and fresh coffee filled the air, yet all he felt was suspicion. He pressed his palm on the biometric lock. The door opened with a soft click, the door to a kingdom that no longer felt like his. The moment he sat down, he noticed little things. The files on his desk were not where he usually left them. His safe had been moved slightly from its mark on the floor. Even the office plant, one his mother had given him for peace, had withered in its pot. He sat back, breathing slowly. Something has been happening here, he thought. Something under my own nose. He called his personal assistant, a quiet, loyal man named Tund. The man entered trembling. "Sir, welcome back. We didn't know." Darius raised his hand gently. "Relax, Tund. I'm not here for greetings. I need to know who's been accessing my private files." Tund swallowed hard. "Sir, I don't handle that anymore. Madame Vanessa said you gave her permission to oversee internal audits while you were away." That one sentence hit Darius like thunder. "She accessed my files?" he asked. Tund nodded carefully. "Yes, sir. She said you wanted transparency." Darius leaned back and smiled faintly. "Transparency," he repeated, his voice calm but heavy. "All right. Bring me all copies of last year's audit reports, and Tund, not the digital ones. The physical files." When the man left, Darius turned to the window. Lego sprawled beneath him, busy and restless. He thought of Vanessa's words from the night before, how she insulted his mother. He thought of the cold confidence in her voice. Only someone certain of power spoke that way. That meant she believed she was untouchable. That belief would be her downfall. An hour later, Tund returned with 3 large brown files. Darius opened them one by one. His eyes scanned figures, contracts, and payments until he reached what he was searching for, a list of overseas transfers. His breath slowed. Several accounts in the Cayman Islands carried the initials VC Vanessa Cole. Millions of dollars moved quietly from his charity foundations to shell companies. But that wasn't all. Attached were legal authorizations signed not only by Vanessa, but by Daniel, his own brother. A pain spread in his chest, not from shock, but confirmation. The betrayal was complete. He closed the file and whispered to himself, "So the serpent had help in my garden." He opened his laptop, typed into an encrypted folder, and began downloading copies of every suspicious document. Evidence was the only weapon stronger than emotion. That evening, he returned home quietly. Vanessa was in the living room watching television, smiling as if nothing had happened. "You're back early," she said, pretending surprise. Darius smiled faintly. "Yes." The office was quiet. "I needed to breathe Lagos air again." She laughed softly. "Good. You've been working too much. You need rest." He nodded. "You're right. Rest." But as he walked away, he glanced at her reflection in the mirror. She was texting someone, her smile fading into something secret. He didn't say a word. Some battles are won by silence. Later that night, Darius sat beside his mother in her room. She looked stronger, though sadness still lingered in her eyes. "Mama," he said softly, "I think the snake has more than one head." She looked at him calmly. "You have found something." He nodded. "Yes. And I think Daniel is involved." Mama Cole sighed. "Ah, my son, do not be too quick to judge. Blood can deceive, but sometimes it is ignorance, not malice." Darius shook his head. "No, Mama. This is deeper than ignorance. Money blinded them. But I will not let it destroy me." She reached out, placing her wrinkled hand on his. "Remember what your father always said, when the fire burns too fast, it consumes its owner. Let your wisdom be your weapon." He smiled faintly. "I remember." When Mama Cole fell asleep, Darius went to his study again. He opened his phone and dialed a private investigator, an old ally named Chief Baco, a retired police officer known for his honesty. "Chief," he said in a low voice, "I need eyes on Vanessa Cole and my brother Daniel." Discreetly. "I want to know every call, every visit, every secret. No one must know I'm back." The old man laughed softly. "Ah, Darius, when the lion stops roaring, it doesn't mean he's lost his teeth. Give me 2 days. 2 days passed slowly. Darius spent most of it with his mother, pretending peace while fire brewed inside. On the second night, his phone vibrated. It was Chief Baco. "My boy," the old man said, "you were right. Your wife and your brother meet secretly, not in Lagos, but in a private villa in Ape. And guess who joined them last week? Adrian Mensa." That name turned the blood in Darius's veins to ice. Adrian Mensa, his former business partner, a man once like a brother, until greed tore them apart. He had tried to destroy Darius' company years ago and failed. Now it made sense. Vanessa wasn't acting alone. This was a full alliance, a quiet coup. "Thank you, Chief," Darius said, his voice calm but sharp. "Keep watching. I'll handle the rest." He hung up and sat in silence for a long time. The sound of the ceiling fan filled the room. He thought of his mother's words about patience. Then he looked at his father's portrait on the wall, the man who taught him never to fight with rage. "Father," he whispered, "your son will not fight with fists. He will fight with truth." The next morning, Vanessa woke to find Darius already dressed in a gray suit. "Going somewhere?" she asked sweetly. He smiled. "Just meetings. I might travel soon." She nodded, pretending indifference, but her eyes betrayed fear, as if she suspected he knew. He stepped outside, feeling the wind brush against his face. For the first time in days, he felt calm. He had seen the full picture now. Betrayal was no longer a surprise, it was a puzzle being solved piece by piece. As his car pulled away, he whispered to himself, "They think the storm is over. They don't know it's just beginning." That day, Darius Cole became a different man. The gentle billionaire who trusted too easily was gone. In his place stood a quiet storm, patient, precise, and ready. For he had learned that when you fight evil with rage, you become part of it. But when you fight with truth, even the devil runs out of lies. And in that silence, under the Lagos sun, he made a vow. He would not just expose them. He would let them destroy themselves with their own greed. For the first time in many years, Darius Cole left the noise of Lagos behind. The city lights faded in his rearview mirror as the highway carried him eastward, toward the quiet red earth of Umuaka, his father's village, the place where his story began. The journey was long and heavy with thought. Every tree, every dusty roadside, every child waving from a distance reminded him of simpler days, days before money, before betrayal, before his heart became a battlefield. He drove himself, refusing help from anyone. He wanted time to think. The night before, he had received Chief Baco's final report. Vanessa and Daniel had been siphoning funds into Adrian Mensa's secret accounts. It was all their bank records, call logs, signed agreements. Yet even with all that proof, he felt no victory. Only sorrow. Because betrayal by strangers wounds the body, but betrayal by blood wounds the soul. When he reached Umuaka, the air was different. It smelled of rain, wood smoke, and peace. The village children ran alongside his car, shouting, "Big man Don Como!" But he only smiled faintly. He parked in front of the old family house, an ancestral compound surrounded by tall palm trees and a wide udala tree shading the yard. His mother's wheelchair was lifted gently out of the car by two villagers who had heard he was coming. They bowed respectfully. "Welcome home, Darius," one said. "Your father would be proud." Mama Cole's eyes glistened as she looked around. "Ah, this place. It still feels alive," she whispered. Darius smiled softly. "Yes, Mama. This is where truth breathes freely." That night, as the crickets sang and the stars burned bright, Darius sat outside under the udala tree. He thought of his father, of his teachings. The man had once told him, "A rich man who forgets his roots is a tree trying to grow without soil." Darius had spent years chasing the world and forgotten where his strength came from. But now, sitting on ancestral ground, he felt grounded again. Mama Cole joined him quietly, her blanket around her shoulders. "My son," she said softly, "the heart heals faster when it returns home." He nodded. "You were right, Mama. I've seen their true faces. Vanessa, Daniel, Adrian, all of them." She sighed deeply. Then you must also remember what I told you, the devil uses anger to finish what betrayal started. Don't let them win twice. Her words sank deep into his spirit. He watched fireflies float in the night air and thought, perhaps this battle wasn't just about money. It was about legacy, about proving that goodness can survive even in a world soaked in greed. The next morning, the village square buzzed with news. Darius Cole, the billionaire son of Umuaka, had returned home. Elders came to greet him, one after another, blessing him and reminding him of his father's wisdom. The oldest among them, Pa Obi, said, "We heard your name in the city, my son. But remember, a man is not great because of what he builds. He is great because of what he rebuilds after the storm." Darius bowed his head in gratitude. "Your words are gold, Baba." After the meeting, Darius walked alone to the family shrine, a small hut beside the stream. He knelt and whispered to his late father's spirit, "I failed to protect what you left behind, but I will not fail to restore it." The wind rustled through the palm leaves as if answering him. It was there, by that shrine, that he made a promise, not of revenge, but of justice through truth. Back in Lagos, Vanessa and Daniel were growing uneasy. They had tried calling Darius, but his number was unreachable. They assumed he had left for another trip abroad. Little did they know, the silence was his strategy. While they schemed freely, he was building his evidence, his patience, and his peace. Days turned to weeks in the village. Darius began rebuilding the old family compound, hiring local workers, donating to the community, and opening a small foundation in his mother's name. The Cole Home for Widows and Orphans. He wanted to remind himself that wealth must serve, not enslave. Mama Cole would watch him each morning with pride and tears in her eyes. "You are returning to the man I raised," she would say softly. "Not the one the city tried to turn you into." But one evening, as he sat under the Udala tree, Chief Bako arrived unexpectedly. His jeep stopped with a hiss of dust. "Ah, Darius," he said, stepping out, "your enemies are getting bold. They think you are gone. Vanessa and Daniel have called an emergency shareholders meeting to transfer your remaining assets into Adrian's hands. Tomorrow morning. They plan to declare you medically unfit to run your empire." Darius smiled calmly. "Then tomorrow, the masks will fall." At dawn, he dressed simply: white shirt, black trousers, nothing loud. He kissed his mother's forehead. "Pray for me, Mama. Today, truth walks into the city." She held his hand firmly. "Go, my son. Let light do what darkness fears most, shine." By noon, he entered the boardroom. The room went silent. Vanessa's painted smile froze mid-sentence. Daniel's eyes widened. Adrian, sitting confidently in his designer suit, almost dropped his pen. Darius looked at them all with quiet strength. "Surprised to see me?" he asked softly. No one spoke. He placed a stack of documents on the table, copies of transactions, emails, voice recordings, and photographs. "Before you destroy my name," he said, "you might want to explain this to the shareholders." The room erupted in whispers. Vanessa stammered, "Darius, this isn't what it looks like," but he raised his hand. "Enough. I gave you everything. Love, trust, even my silence. And you repaid me with lies. You thought you could steal my mother's peace, my legacy, and my name. But today, you will see, truth doesn't die quietly." Security men entered with police officers. Chief Bako stood at the door, arms folded. "Mr. Cole," one officer said respectfully, "shall we proceed with the arrests?" Darius nodded slowly. Vanessa began to cry, her voice trembling. "Please, Darius," I was pressured, but he turned away. Daniel dropped to his knees. "Brother, forgive me, I was blinded." Darius looked at him for a long moment. "You weren't blinded, Daniel. You closed your eyes." As they were let out, Adrian smirked bitterly. "You'll regret this," he spat. Darius turned to him calmly. "I already did. That's why I'm ending it." When the room emptied, Darius sat alone for a while. The sound of city traffic hummed in the distance. He looked through the window and whispered, "Father, it's done. Truth has spoken." That evening, he returned to Omuaka. Mama Cole was waiting under the udala tree, the sunset painting her face gold. "It's over?" she asked softly. "Yes, Mama. But not with anger, with truth." She smiled weakly. "Then peace will find you now." He knelt beside her chair, resting his head on her lap like a child again. For the first time in years, he felt light. The burden had lifted. He realized that real wealth was not in the empire he saved, but in the soul he reclaimed. As night fell over the village, the moon rose high and gentle. The crickets sang again, and the air was full of calm. Darius closed his eyes and whispered, "When the snake strikes, the wise man doesn't strike back, he cuts off the path it slithers from." And in that quiet, with the udala tree swaying softly above them, peace returned to the Cole family, not through power, not through vengeance, but through wisdom. The courtroom was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the heavy silence that comes before a storm. Cameras clicked softly as reporters whispered among themselves. At the front sat Darius Cole, calm, composed, dressed in a simple black suit. Beside him sat Chief Bako, watching with quiet pride. Across the room, Vanessa and Daniel sat pale and restless, their faces drawn by sleepless nights. Adrian Mensah, still arrogant, kept his chin high, but his eyes betrayed unease. The judge entered, and everyone stood. "You may sit," the voice echoed. Then the trial began. For 3 long hours, evidence flowed like a river. Financial statements, forged signatures, bank transfers, emails, all placed before the court like mirrors of shame. Darius didn't speak much. He didn't need to. The truth spoke for itself. Every time Vanessa tried to deny, a new document silenced her. Every time Daniel tried to explain, a recording of his voice emerged. Adrian sat stiff, his lawyer sweating beside him. When the judge finally spoke, his tone was firm. "This case reveals not only corruption but the destruction of trust within family. Justice will be served." Vanessa began to cry quietly. Daniel buried his face in his hands. Adrian stared blankly ahead, his arrogance drained. As the bailiffs prepared to lead them away, Darius rose slowly. "Your Honor," he said softly, "I have a request." The courtroom turned silent again. "Let them go," he continued. The judge looked up sharply. "Mr. Cole, they defrauded you of billions, assaulted your mother, nearly ruined your company. You wish to withdraw the charges?" Darius nodded calmly. "Yes, my lord. I do not forgive them because they deserve it. I forgive them because I refuse to carry their poison in my heart. Let the law handle the rest in peace, but I want no more vengeance attached to my name." The courtroom murmured in disbelief. Vanessa's tears fell harder. Daniel looked up, stunned. Adrian's lips trembled, but he said nothing. The judge sighed. "Very well, Mr. Cole. The court will honor your decision. But may your mercy be a lesson to those who confuse kindness for weakness." Darius bowed slightly. "Thank you, my lord." When he stepped outside, the reporters swarmed him. Microphones pushed forward, voices shouted questions. "Mr. Cole, why did you forgive them?" He paused, his face calm under the afternoon sun. "Because forgiveness is the only revenge that leaves me free," he said quietly. Then he entered his car and drove away. Weeks passed. The city moved on, but the story of the billionaire who forgave betrayal became a legend. Some said he was foolish, others said he was wise beyond measure. But Darius didn't care what people said. His heart was lighter now. He had seen the worst in humans, and yet chosen peace. He spent more time in Omuaka, rebuilding the family mansion into something new, a sanctuary. With Chief Bako's help, he turned part of the land into a rehabilitation home for abused mothers and widows, naming it Mama Cole Foundation for Healing Hearts. The villagers admired him deeply. They would often say, "When a man builds a house, he builds for himself. But when he builds hope, he builds for generations." Mama Cole grew weaker by the day, yet her spirit glowed brighter. She would sit by the window each morning, watching children run through the compound, laughing and playing. "You've done well, my son," she would whisper. "You took ashes and made them bloom." Darius would hold her hand gently. "It was your prayers, Mama. They guided me when my heart was blind." One evening, as the sun melted into gold and crimson across the horizon, Darius sat by her bedside. She looked at him with peaceful eyes. "My son," she said faintly, "promise me something." "Anything, Mama," he replied. She smiled. "Promise me you'll never let bitterness grow where love once lived. Because bitterness is a thief, it steals tomorrow's joy." Tears filled his eyes as he nodded. "I promise." She smiled one last time. "Then my heart can rest." And as the last light of evening touched her face, Mama Cole took her final breath, gentle, calm, free. The next morning, the entire village mourned. Bells rang softly. Even the birds seemed quiet. Darius buried her beneath the Udala tree, beside his father. As he stood by her grave, the wind rustled through the leaves like whispered blessings. He closed his eyes and whispered, "You lived with dignity, Mama. You left me wisdom. Rest now, I'll carry the light." After the funeral, he walked alone to the stream behind the house. The water glimmered under the sun. He picked up a stone, threw it gently, and watched the ripples spread. Each ripple reminded him of life, how one action touches everything around it. In the following months, the foundation flourished. Women found safety, children found care, and hope found a new home. Darius stopped chasing profits and started chasing purpose. He trained young people from the village, funding small businesses, teaching them how to build honestly. "If I die poor but peaceful," he said one day to Chief Bako, "I'll still be richer than I ever was." Chief Bako smiled. "And the world will remember not the size of your empire, but the size of your heart." Years later, on the anniversary of his mother's passing, Darius visited her grave again. The Udala tree had grown even wider, its branches spreading like arms of protection over the compound. Beneath it, fresh flowers always bloomed, placed there daily by women from the foundation. He knelt and whispered, "You were right, Mama. Forgiveness was my freedom. I've found peace at last." A gentle wind blew, carrying the scent of rain and soil. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang, and laughter of children echoed through the air. Darius smiled. The wounds of the past no longer hurt, they had become scars of wisdom. He turned toward the compound, now filled with life and color. Mothers cooking, children studying, women learning new trades, all under the roof that pain had built but love had redeemed. It was then he understood the full circle of his journey. He once thought strength was in building empires. Now he knew it was in rebuilding hearts. As evening settled, he sat quietly under the Udala tree, the same place where his father once taught him, where his mother blessed him, and where his soul finally found rest. He looked at the sunset and said softly to himself, "Wealth fades, power fades, even love fades, but truth, forgiveness, and legacy, they live forever." And with that, he closed his eyes, listening to the wind move gently through the leaves. The same wind that had witnessed his pain now carried peace. Somewhere, far away, people still spoke of Darius Cole, the man who lost everything yet found himself. The man who chose mercy over vengeance, and light over darkness. And so his story became a proverb among the elders of Umuaka. When a rich man forgives, he becomes richer than kings. For the wealth of peace is greater than gold. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. And subscribe for more powerful African stories that teach real-life lessons. Now tell us in the comments. If you were in Darius Cole's shoes, would you forgive those who betrayed you? Or would you let them face justice? Your answer might just reveal what kind of heart you carry.